Let me ask you something today. Why do some people seem to attract money effortlessly, while others work tirelessly and still struggle to stay afloat? We've all seen it, two people with similar backgrounds, education and work ethic, yet one thrives financially, while the other barely scrapes by. The answer isn't just about working harder or being born lucky. The truth is, wealth isn't only built by action, it's magnetized by mindset. It's not just what you do, it's how you think, how you feel, and how you align with the energy of money. Most of us are taught that success is purely the result of grind and hustle. But what if your thoughts, your beliefs, and even your emotional patterns were quietly shaping your financial destiny from the inside out? The law of wealth attraction isn't about wishful thinking or blind optimism. It's about rewiring the subconscious programs that determine what you believe you deserve, stepping into aligned action, and shifting your emotional state to match the vibration of abundance. In this video, we'll break down the hidden mindset patterns that keep most people stuck in scarcity and reveal the psychological, energetic, and practical principles that the world's wealthiest people consciously or unconsciously live by. If you're ready to stop chasing money and start attracting it, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Number 1, the psychology behind wealth. Long before we earn our first paycheck or open a bank account, our relationship with money is already taking shape, quietly and powerfully beneath the surface. From childhood, we absorb beliefs about wealth from our parents, culture, school systems, and even religion. We hear phrases like money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are greedy, or we can't afford that. And without realizing it, these words become internal scripts that shape how we view money for the rest of our lives. This is what experts call subconscious programming, and it's one of the most overlooked factors in financial success. In The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel reminds us that people don't make financial decisions based purely on logic. They act based on their personal history and emotional triggers. What you believe about money, whether it's safe, evil, hard to get, or impossible to keep, often dictates how you earn, spend, save, and invest far more than your actual knowledge of finance. This is where the concept of scarcity versus abundance mindset becomes crucial. A scarcity mindset believes there's never enough of money, time, resources, or opportunity. It leads to fear, hoarding, competition, and self-sabotage. You might undercharge for your work, fear investing, or feel guilty for wanting more. On the other hand, an abundance mindset understands that wealth is not fixed, it's created. There is always more to learn, more to give, more to receive. People with an abundance mindset take calculated risks, invest in themselves, collaborate openly, and trust that what they give will return multiplied. Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich emphasized that all riches begin with a state of mind, a definiteness of purpose, a burning desire, and the belief that it is possible. T. Harv Eker took it further in Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, arguing that each of us has a personal money blueprint running in the background, which either draws in wealth or pushes it away, depending on how it's wired. Mindset is not a fluffy concept. It is the foundation of all wealth attraction. No strategy, no investment, no amount of hard work can outperform a deeply held belief that you are not worthy, not capable, or not ready for wealth. That's why many people who win the lottery or inherit large sums often end up broke within a few years. The outer wealth doesn't match their inner programming, so they unconsciously return to the level of money they feel safe with. True wealth building begins with becoming aware of the stories we tell ourselves about money. Ask yourself honestly, what was I taught to believe about money? Is that belief helping me grow or keeping me stuck? You might discover that your fear of charging more or your guilt around wanting financial freedom isn't yours. It was handed down by someone who was struggling, scared, or misinformed. The good news is that beliefs can be reprogrammed. The mind is malleable, and with conscious effort, you can replace scarcity with abundance, fear with confidence, guilt with gratitude. But it all begins with awareness. You cannot change what you do not acknowledge. So before you learn how to earn more, invest better, or manage wealth like the 1%, you must first understand your inner financial thermostat and reset it if it's keeping you cold. Because in the end, wealth doesn't just live in your bank account, it begins in your mind. And once you master that, everything else starts to align. Number 2, belief systems and identity shifts. When it comes to attracting wealth, the most critical truth is this: we don't get what we want. We get what we believe we deserve. You can read every book on money, set goals, say affirmations, and hustle 16 hours a day. But if your subconscious identity doesn't match the level of wealth you're trying to attain, you will unconsciously block, sabotage, or shrink the very opportunities you claim to desire. This isn't about motivation, it's about alignment. The root of lasting financial transformation lies in identity. Your self-worth acts like a thermostat. You may experience bursts of success, windfalls of cash, or moments of opportunity. But unless your internal settings match those experiences, you'll quickly find ways to lose, sabotage, or revert back to your comfort zone. That's why people often hit invisible ceilings in income, growth, or impact. Those ceilings aren't in the world, they're inside. Think about it. If deep down you believe money corrupts people, or that you're not smart enough, worthy enough, or prepared enough to handle real wealth, how will you act? You'll undercharge. You'll procrastinate. You'll overgive and undervalue your work. These aren't just bad habits, they're reflections of your identity. And unless that identity shifts, any success you experience will feel unsafe, unsustainable, or unearned. To attract and keep wealth, you must become the kind of person who sees themselves as capable of managing, growing, and deserving of it. This is identity alignment. It means upgrading the story you tell about who you are and what you're worth, not in theory, but in practice. True transformation comes when your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors start to align with the identity of someone who thrives with money. A powerful example of this shift comes from Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. Before she became a billionaire, she was selling fax machines door to door, constantly rejected, underestimated, and overlooked. But she didn't let those experiences define her. Instead, she actively reprogrammed her beliefs, journaling affirmations, visualizing success, and conditioning her identity until it matched the version of herself she wanted to become. When she created Spanx, it wasn't luck or timing that led to her rise, it was preparation. She became a successful founder before the world recognized her as one. That's the secret. Identity shifts always precede outer success. You must see yourself as wealthy before the money arrives. Not in an arrogant or delusional way, but in a grounded, confident knowing that you are ready to handle more because you've done the internal work. So how do you begin this shift? Start by observing your self-talk around money. When you receive, do you feel guilt or gratitude? When you invest, do you feel expansion or fear? Journaling is a powerful tool here. Write out the beliefs you inherited. Money is hard to earn. Rich people are selfish. I'll never get ahead, and question them. Are they true? Where did they come from? Who gave them to you? Once you've identified the outdated scripts, begin replacing them with intentional beliefs. Use present tense affirmations like, I am worthy of financial abundance, or I attract wealth through service and alignment. But don't just say them, act on them. Make decisions as if you already believe they're true. The more your actions reflect your new identity, the faster your reality will begin to shift. Remember, your financial life will always rise or fall to meet the level of your self-identity. Wealth is not just what you hold in your hands, it's what you hold in your mind and heart. Change the story you tell about yourself, and you'll change the results you create. Because at the end of the day, your net worth will never exceed your self-worth. And once you believe you're worthy of more, the world has a way of reflecting that belief right back to you. Number 3, aligned action. More than just positive thinking. The law of wealth attraction is often misunderstood as magical thinking. A belief that simply visualizing success or repeating affirmations will somehow magnetize millions into your life. But that's not how it works. Attraction without aligned action is just daydreaming. The real power of the law lies not in passive hope, but in alignment, the harmony between your thoughts, emotions, intentions, and the actions you take every single day. It's not about wishing for wealth, it's about living in a way that reflects the version of you who already possesses it. Alignment means that your goals aren't just written down on paper, they're backed by habits, decisions, and behavior that are congruent with them. Clarity is the starting point. If you don't know what you truly want, you'll keep acting in ways that contradict your desires. But once your intention is crystal clear, your energy shifts. You stop chasing opportunities and start choosing the ones that fit. You stop acting from desperation and start acting from purpose. The most powerful entrepreneurs, creators, and leaders don't move from fear or scarcity. They move from a grounded sense of direction. That's the difference. Wealthy people don't just think differently, they act differently. They don't see money as something to hoard or fear. They see themselves as stewards of money, not slaves to it. They invest instead of spending impulsively. They delay gratification, not because they're disciplined robots, but because they understand the long-term game. They delegate, automate, build systems, and focus their energy on high-leverage activities that compound over time. They don't micromanage every dollar. They design their life and business so that wealth flows to them through alignment and service. This doesn't mean they never feel doubt or fear, but they don't let those feelings decide their actions. They take courageous, consistent steps, even when they're uncertain, because they trust that aligned action creates results. When you take action from a place of abundance rather than lack, everything shifts. You show up differently in meetings. You market your work with confidence instead of desperation. You attract clients who respect your value rather than chase those who drain your energy. Abundance-based action builds momentum, and momentum builds belief. The more you do the things that someone wealthy would do, save, invest, negotiate, protect your energy, build assets, the more your brain begins to believe that this version of you is real. Confidence isn't something you wait for. It's something you build through behavior. So here's the real question. Are your daily habits aligned with the level of wealth you say you want? Are your choices how you spend your time, what you consume, who you surround yourself with, how you speak about money, reflecting scarcity or abundance? Are you scrolling and wishing or building and executing? Aligned action isn't about doing more. It's about doing the right things with intentional energy. It's about acting from your future self, not your fearful self. If you want to attract wealth, you must stop negotiating with your limitations. You must stop waiting for motivation and start building identity through action. Because it's not your goals that change your life, it's the small aligned steps you take every day when no one is watching. The law of attraction doesn't respond to your wishes, it responds to your patterns. And when your patterns reflect the energy, confidence, and commitment of someone who is already wealthy in mind and behavior, your outer world eventually catches up. Not overnight, not magically, but inevitably. Because aligned action turns intention into transformation, and that's the real secret. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. So start being it. One intentional step at a time. Number 4, emotional frequency and energy. If there's one invisible force that shapes your financial reality more than anything else, it's your emotional state. Emotions aren't just fleeting feelings, they're energetic signals that influence how you think, behave, and ultimately, what you attract. According to Dr. David Hawkins in his groundbreaking work, Power versus Force, every emotion carries a measurable frequency. Low-frequency emotions like shame, guilt, fear, and anger contract your energy. They make you feel small, helpless, and disconnected. High-frequency emotions like courage, gratitude, joy, and love expand your energy. They empower, uplift, and connect you to possibility. When it comes to wealth, this is not just a spiritual idea. It's science-backed. Your brain and body operate differently depending on your emotional state. Neuroscience shows that when you're in a state of fear or scarcity, your brain's amygdala is activated, narrowing your focus and pushing you into survival mode. You become reactive instead of creative. You miss opportunities, avoid risks, and make poor decisions because your entire system is trying to avoid loss, not build prosperity. This is why fear, desperation, and lack are repellents to wealth. When your dominant emotional frequency is rooted in anxiety, I don't have enough, what if I lose it? I need this to work or I'll fail. You unconsciously send out a signal of resistance. You become needy, controlling, and mentally closed off. Even if you're doing all the right things externally, working hard, networking, launching products, your internal frequency is out of alignment, and the results just don't stick. On the other hand, when you begin to operate from emotional states like calmness, gratitude, and confidence, your energy shifts. You start to feel safe, creative, open to feedback, and ready to receive. Gratitude in particular is one of the most powerful frequencies for attracting wealth. Why? Because it tells the universe and your subconscious that you are already abundant. And what you appreciate, you amplify. Visualization is one of the most effective tools to shift your emotional state. When you close your eyes and vividly imagine the version of you who is already financially free, feeling their ease, confidence, and joy, you begin to rewire your neural pathways. Your brain can't distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and reality, so visualization literally prepares your mind and body to receive what it hasn't yet physically experienced. But it's not just about fantasizing, it's about feeling the emotions of success now. That emotional shift is what changes your behavior, your choices, and your vibration. Gratitude journaling is another simple yet transformative tool. By writing down 3 things you're grateful for every day, especially related to money or opportunity, you train your brain to see abundance rather than lack. Over time, this reframes your emotional baseline. You stop focusing on what's missing and start feeling empowered by what's already present. This doesn't mean you settle or stop striving. It means you move forward with peace instead of pressure. Emotional reframing is also key. When setbacks happen, and they will, it's not about pretending everything's fine. It's about shifting your perspective. Instead of saying, I failed, say, I learned. Instead of, I can't afford it, try, how can I create it? These micro shifts in language change the emotional frequency of your thoughts, moving you out of powerlessness and into possibility. Remember, wealth is attracted to strength, clarity, and openness, not fear and contraction. So if you want to elevate your financial reality, start by elevating your emotional frequency. Pay attention to how you feel when you talk about money. Spend it or receive it. Are you anxious, ashamed, or guarded? Or are you trusting, grateful, and grounded? Because money doesn't just follow action, it follows energy. And when your energy is aligned with abundance, opportunities will begin to show up that once seemed out of reach. This isn't magic, it's emotional intelligence at work. It's the science of how your inner world shapes your outer wealth. Master your frequency, and you'll begin to master your financial future. Number 5, habits of wealth attractors. Wealth isn't just a mindset, it's a series of habits, repeated daily that compound over time into lasting financial transformation. The most financially successful people don't rely on random bursts of luck or energy. They don't wait for motivation or big wins. They design their lives around small, consistent actions that stack and grow silently in the background. These habits might not seem flashy or revolutionary, but over months and years they produce extraordinary results. One of the most foundational habits among wealth attractors is financial tracking. They know where every dollar comes from and where it goes. Not because they're obsessed with money, but because they respect it. What you track, you control, and what you control, you can grow. By simply reviewing spending, income, and savings weekly or monthly, you create a conscious relationship with your money, and conscious awareness leads to conscious wealth. Another powerful habit is long-term investing. Wealthy people understand that money should not only be earned and saved, it must be put to work. They don't rely solely on active income. They build portfolios, invest in assets, and understand the power of compounding. Even small, consistent contributions to an investment account can grow into something massive over time. The key is patience. Instead of chasing quick wins, they focus on the long game, knowing that steady growth always outperforms impulsive moves. This ties directly into another essential habit: delayed gratification. Wealth attractors are willing to forego short-term pleasure for long-term gain. They skip the unnecessary purchases not because they can't afford them, but because they're playing a bigger game. They've trained themselves to value freedom, legacy, and security over momentary thrills. That kind of emotional maturity is what separates temporary success from lasting wealth. But here's what might surprise you. Financially successful people are often strategically generous. They give with intention, not out of guilt, but out of abundance. They understand that money flows where it's appreciated and circulated. Whether it's donating to causes they care about, tipping well, or helping someone get a start, they treat money as a tool to uplift, not just accumulate. This kind of giving aligns with the belief that there's always more where that came from, which only strengthens the wealth-attracting frequency they operate in. What all these habits have in common is that they're consistent, not chaotic. True financial success is less about intensity and more about routine. One-off windfalls or bursts of effort can create temporary spikes, but it's the daily, often boring habits that quietly shape your destiny. The most successful people don't rely on heroic effort. They rely on systems. They set up auto investments. They automate savings. They batch financial reviews. They use habit stacking checklists and environments that support discipline rather than demand willpower. And because their systems work in the background, they free up mental energy for creativity, strategy, and vision, the real drivers of wealth. So don't worry about massive leaps. Focus on the small, repeatable practices that build momentum over time. Review your finances once a week. Set up a $50 monthly auto investment. Say no to one impulse purchase this week and put that money into your future. Give intentionally and watch how it feels. The habits of wealth attractors aren't out of reach. They're available to anyone who chooses consistency over chaos. Because wealth is never the result of one lucky moment. It's the outcome of thousands of small, intelligent decisions made consistently over time. Choose your habits wisely, and your financial life will start to reflect those choices quietly at first, then undeniably. Number 6, what blocks wealth? For many people, the challenge isn't learning how to attract wealth. It's learning how to stop blocking it. Most wealth blocks don't come from the outside world, but from within. They show up as quiet patterns that sabotage our progress, limit our actions, and keep us stuck in cycles of lack. One of the most common is self-sabotage, the unconscious habit of pulling back just as things start to go well. It might look like procrastinating on a project, turning down an opportunity, or overspending the moment you get ahead. This often comes from a deep-rooted belief that you're not worthy of success, or that having more money will make you a target or a bad person. Another major block is emotional spending, using money to soothe stress, insecurity, or boredom. It offers a temporary high, but it keeps you trapped in a reactive cycle where money flows out faster than it comes in. Then there's comparison, the subtle, daily erosion of self-worth caused by measuring your life against someone else's highlight reel. It creates anxiety, shame, and the feeling that you're always behind, even when you're making progress. One of the most overlooked wealth blocks is the fear of success. It sounds strange. Why would anyone fear the very thing they're working toward? But success often brings visibility, responsibility, and change. If your subconscious associates wealth with pressure, conflict, or losing love, you'll unknowingly avoid it. These blocks are powerful not because they're visible, but because they're silent. They operate below the surface, dictating your choices in subtle ways. But here's the truth. Every block is a doorway to growth. Each one carries a lesson. Emotional spending teaches you to feel instead of numb. Comparison invites you to define your own path. Fear of success asks you to examine what success really means to you. The good news is, blocks lose power when you bring awareness to them. Through tools like journaling, therapy, coaching, and reflection, people can identify the root causes of their financial patterns and begin to shift them. For example, someone who constantly sabotaged financial success realized their behavior mirrored a parent who believed that wealth and morality couldn't coexist. By rewriting that belief, they stopped undercharging and started building wealth with integrity. Another person who feared visibility reframed success as service, not spotlight, and found the courage to step up and lead. Wealth doesn't require perfection, it requires presence. If you're willing to face your blocks without judgment, you can turn them into the very tools that set you free. As the saying goes, the level of wealth you attract is equal to the level of resistance you release. Let go of guilt, let go of fear, let go of the stories that no longer serve you. Because what's on the other side isn't just money, it's freedom. Wealth isn't something you stumble into by luck or inherit by chance. It's something you attract by alignment. The truth is, every financial breakthrough begins on the inside. Your beliefs, your emotions, your daily habits, they are the invisible forces creating your financial reality. You can't just read about money or wish for success and expect transformation. You must do the inner work, rewire the limiting beliefs you've carried for years. Raise your emotional frequency so you no longer operate from fear. Align your actions with the identity of someone who truly knows their worth. Because wealth attraction is not about chasing something external, it's about becoming someone internally powerful enough to receive it. So here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, speak, act, and think like the wealthiest version of yourself. Not from ego, but from self-respect. Ask better questions, make empowered choices, move with clarity. Journal your wins. Visualize abundance before it arrives. And most importantly, practice the habits, discipline, and generosity that reflect your future self, not your past limitations. You'll be surprised how quickly the world begins to shift in response. You don't have to chase wealth, you just have to become the kind of person it flows to. The transformation starts now, and it starts with you.